Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. Today we're checking out top 10 most British sentences ever uttered.
Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching
Hello.
Top 10's Net, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 most British sentences ever uttered.
What could it be?
The British are often stereotyped as being stoic and reserved, the kind of people who respond to poor customer service with a sternly worded letter and consider the response it's fine to be a withering insult. In celebration of British wit and understatement, join us as we discuss what we believe to be the 10 most British sentences ever uttered.
How did he describe that? I need to hear that one more time.
In celebration of British wit and understatement, join us as we discuss what we believe to be the 10 most British sentences ever uttered.
Okay, this should be good.
Number 10. The quote. "Get up, George, you're embarrassing me." The context. Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher to her bodyguard immediately after being shot at by the SAS. The story. Margaret Thatcher is a polarizing topic in Blighty, and in some places the mere mention of her name can kill the atmosphere in a room and replace it with a whirlwind of flailing snakes, or so we've heard. That said, she is begrudgingly admired for her unflappable demeanor, which earned her the incredible badass nickname of the Iron Lady. Perhaps the single greatest example of Thatcher's sheer inability to be fazed by even the most extreme situation is the time she was involved in an SAS training exercise involving live ammo. The story goes that during her tenure as Prime Minister, Thatcher was meeting with the SAS, who invited her to take part in a hostage rescue scenario
with live
using
ammo?
actual bullets, a common courtesy they extend to all high-profile guests to show off their skills. Thatcher gladly accepted and sat in a darkened room in the Killing House, the impossibly sweet nickname given to the SAS's secret training building, along with her bodyguard. A few minutes later, three highly trained SAS operatives kicked down the door, threw in a flashbang grenade, and then fired several rounds into the targets, flanking Thatcher, who was reportedly sitting calmly at a table with her purse. The moment the SAS started firing, Thatcher's bodyguard, showing how clearly he sucked at his job, dove under the table, causing Thatcher to say what she said in a testicle-shrinkingly patronizing tone of voice.
Wait. That's a crap bodyguard. She went to an SAS exercise with live ammo. They kicked open the door and were shooting around her, and her bodyguard dove under the table. And she said, "Get up, George, you're embarrassing me." I wonder, like, what, live ammo? Live ammo with the Prime Minister in the room. That's very dangerous. Why take the chance? Oh, this says exercises are always carried out with live ammo. The Killing House. Okay, so Margaret Thatcher was sitting in the Killing House, which is essentially a highly specialized training area. The facility consists of several floors featuring sliding walls. Okay, so they can, like, create a building or a room the size and the shape they need it to be. Training exercises are always conducted using live ammo, and the SAS is so confident in the skill of its operatives that during hostage rescue scenarios, they invite visiting VIPs to assume that role of a hostage in exercises. The idea being that the VIP gets to experience firsthand why the SAS earned its reputation as a bunch of cast iron, solid testicle-owning mother. While other VIPs and dignitaries visiting the SAS have only begrudgingly accepted this offer, the Iron Lady apparently jumped at the chance and insisted on being the hostage. Her bodyguard, apparently some douche called George, advised against this, prompting an annoyed Thatcher to suggest that if he was so worried about her safety around the most elite fighting force the country she ran had at its disposal, he should accompany her. Yeah. So they sat in a room flanked by cardboard targets and were left in total darkness. A few minutes later, an SAS operative kicked down the door, hurled a flashbang grenade through the hole while she's in there, fired 2 rounds into every target, and then hit the lights. When the smoke cleared, the SAS operatives gathered were stunned to see Thatcher sat at total ease, absent-mindedly resting her hands on the table beside her purse. George, on the other hand, had responded to the hail of bullets by leaping under the table and cowering in a puddle of his fear urine. He pissed himself. Then she said, "Get up, George, you're embarrassing me." That's really dangerous, y'all. Wow. Crazy.
Number 9. The quote. "Chatfield, there seems to be something wrong with our bloody ships today." The context. Admiral David Batty, shortly after 2 of the ships under his command exploded in front of him. The story. Admiral Batty was a highly decorated British naval figure who rose from the rank of cadet to Sea Lord. This is the highest post possible in the British Royal Navy. Batty earned countless commendations throughout his career and personally accepted the surrender of Germany's navy at the end of World War I. He is, however, best remembered for being completely nonplussed about two of his ships exploding. During a battle in World War I known as the Battle of Jutland, Batty personally witnessed the HMS Indefatigable, one of Britain's biggest and most coveting guns ships, explode in the water. Less than half an hour later, while stationed on the bridge of his own ship, Batty was approached by a nervous crewman who informed him that the Royal Navy's second best ship, the HMS Queen Mary, had also exploded. Without missing a beat, Batty calmly turned to his second-in-command and uttered his most famous quote.
Wow, that is definitely an understatement. So it's World War I, two of his ships explode, and he's there watching it. They're in the middle of a battle, and he says, "There seems to be something wrong with our bloody ships today." It's funny, but at the same time, it's like he's deflecting responsibility for his poor battle commanding. But I guess they won, so, like, whatever, who am I to judge?
Number 8. The quote. I can't wear beige because nobody would know who I am. The context. The Queen on why she wears bright pastel colours all the time. The story. Few, if any, people can truly claim to be as easily recognizable as the Queen of England, a woman who has been on so much money over the years you can see her age. Though officially the Queen has a number of rather important duties, such as approving parliamentary bills and meeting with the Prime Minister, her role as monarch is mostly ceremonial. To this end, the Queen has a punishing schedule of public events where she shows her face and meets with people who don't live in a giant castle. At such events, the Queen virtually always wears a single colour, often taking the form of a pastel-coloured dress.
She does. I never noticed that.
Hat. The Queen's official reasoning behind this fashion choice is she believes that if she wore a less awesome colour, nobody would recognise her. Remember, this is a woman who spends most of her time in a country where her face is on every single piece of paper money issued, and she still, rather adoringly, thinks that people wouldn't know who she was without wearing a dress that looks like someone turned the contrast all.
Huh. Y'all, I never noticed that she wore that kind of stuff. Never occurred to me. Pink coat, pink hat. Green coat, green hat. Orange coat, orange hat. Blue coat, blue hat. Flowery coat, flowery hat. Queen Elizabeth II was in the public eye her entire life and wanted to make sure her subjects saw her, literally. She's quite small, so sometimes just quite difficult to spot. That's cute. So her dressers decided some years ago that it would be helpful if she was brightly colored so that people could spot her easily. Oh, so her dressers decided that? I like to think that she decided that, you know? Look, y'all. Purple dress, purple hat. She likes all the matching hats and the rest of it. Yo, look. Green coat, green hat. Pink dress, pink hat. Purple dress, purple hat. Is that her? That doesn't look like her. It looks like her sister. But green coat, white hat with green thing on it. Pink coat, pink hat. Green coat, green hat. Pink coat, pink hat. Oh, she looks pissed. Green coat, green hat. Purple coat, purple hat. Yellow dress, yellow hat. It's like this has been in my face my whole life and I'm just now noticing it. Never realized that. I need to wear more hats.
Number 7, the quote. We had a very serious evening, you know. The context. Cosmo duffed Dorden when speaking about a boat trip he took aboard the Titanic. The story. Yes, we're talking about the Titanic. According to the experts, just 706 of 2,000 or so people aboard, the exact number has never been established, survived the superliner's maiden voyage. Among them was Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon. A gentleman through and through, upon hearing news that the ship was sinking, Duff Gordon grabbed a bottle of brandy and some cigars and made his way towards the lifeboats with his wife and secretary. Duff Gordon and his wife eventually
brandy, cigars, his wife, and his secretary. Mystery.
Duff Gordon and his wife eventually escaped aboard a smaller lifeboat being piloted by several crewmen, whom the English dandy politely asked permission to join because being aboard a sinking ship is no excuse to forget your manners. Letters Unearthed in 2012 revealed that Duff Gordon witnessed firsthand the horror of the Titanic sinking, writing that he could hear the screams of those who'd fallen overboard, and then later, a silence that shook him to his core. While the trauma he suffered on that day was unthinkable, the worst was yet to come for Duff Gordon when it was rumored he'd bribed his way aboard the lifeboat. He didn't. During what has been described as a savage cross-examination, Duff Gordon was grilled about why his lifeboat didn't search for survivors, even though such a decision ultimately fell to the 7 crewmen he was sailing with. Showing Herculean amounts of restraint, Duff Gordon calmly responded to the lawyer, basically accusing him of being a coward and screaming questions about why he didn't usurp control of the lifeboat from the people specifically trained to use it, by saying, "At the time I was attending to my wife, as I think I said just now. We had a rather serious evening." Presumably while he said this, his moustache was twitching, endless insults about the size of the lawyer's manhood in Morse code.
So this guy goes on the Titanic with his wife and his secretary, a bottle of brandy and some cigars. The ship is sinking. He grabs a bottle of brandy, his cigars. He takes his wife and his secretary up to the lifeboats. They didn't mention that the secretary also got on the lifeboat, so she may have died. I don't know. I might need to look that up. But he's on a lifeboat with 7 crew people who were in charge. And then in the investigation, the authorities basically said he should have commandeered the lifeboat to rescue more people. That's asking a lot. He said he was tending to his wife because we had a pretty big evening. That is such an understatement. We had a rather serious evening. You know, these understatement quotes are reminding me of that documentary by Peter Jackson about British soldiers in World War I. And they were all, like, matter of fact. They're like making tea in the trenches, you know? There's bombs going off and they're making tea. And just like, you know, it's another day. Cosmo Duff Gordon. He died in 1931. He was a fencer. Oh, so he, his wife, and the secretary were among only 12 people who escaped in lifeboat number 1. 12 people. I think those lifeboats were meant for a lot more people. Oh, 40 people. It had a capacity for 40 people. The ladies had earlier turned down places in 2 other lifeboats for women and children because Lucy refused to be separated from her husband. Duff Gordon was a witness at the inquiry into the sinking. Oh, okay, so it was an inquiry. He was not on trial, but received much press criticism, which claimed that he bribed the sailor in charge of the lifeboat with a 5-pound note not to return to rescue people struggling in the water. That turned out to be false. Oh no, he did give him 5 pounds, but he stated that the money was to allow the sailor to buy new clothes. Cosmo denied the allegations that he disobeyed orders, maintaining there had been no women or children in the immediate vicinity when his boat was launched. He died of natural causes. He pooped it out.
Number 6. The quote. "By God, sir, I've lost my leg." The context. Lord Xxbridge, upon noticing his leg had been blown off clean by a cannonball. The story. Henry Paget, better known as the first Marquis of Anglesey, is a famed English army officer and politician, best known for being one of the foremost experts at one of England's oldest and most popular hobbies, dunking on the French military. Well liked by his men, Paget was known for his bravery, composure under fire, and stoicism, often being seen personally leading charges on horseback. It was just after one such charge at the Battle of Waterloo that Paget was struck by an errant cannonball that caused the bottom half of his right leg to explode into a red sticky cloud of viscera. According to all those present, Paget reacted to the injury as if it were a mosquito bite, turning to the man next to him and explaining, rather matter-of-factly, that his leg had been torn off by a screaming hunk of metal travelling at the speed of sound. But Paget wasn't done yet, and he continued to play down the extent of his injury, refusing to even cry out in pain when the mangled remains of his limb were being removed without anesthetic. According to his physician, the only sound Paget made during the entire agonizing procedure was to answer a nurse asking if he was okay. Apparently, Paget's only comment was that the knife being used to scrape away the bone and tissue left below his knee felt rather blunt before once again sitting in silence. The only question after that we have is, how did Paget possibly find a horse big enough to carry him and his enormous manhood?
Yeah, that guy's got some balls. I think most people, if a cannonball blew their leg off, would scream, or faint, or be really confused. This guy, Lord Xxbridge, one of the last cannon shots fired that day hit Paget in the right leg, necessitating its amputation. According to anecdote, he was close to Wellington when his leg was hit and exclaimed, "By God, sir, I've lost my leg," to which Wellington replied, "By God, sir, so you have." This is so Monty Python. It's a flesh wound. Lord Uxbridge's leg became a tourist attraction in the village of Waterloo in Belgium, to which it had been removed and where it was later interred. They kept his leg. Paget had an articulated artificial limb fitted. The prosthetic leg he had commissioned, which had movable joints, became known as Anglesey legs, and he is credited with popularizing the style. He became known as One Leg. That's a creative name. How did he die? He died of a stroke in 1854. Happens a lot. If he kept the leg, I wonder if he would have died earlier, because that's more body part to pump blood through. Maybe missing the lower half of his right leg gave him another couple years to live.
His enormous manhood. Number 5, the quote. By God, sir, so you have. The context. The Duke of Wellington's response to Henry Paget. The story. Yes, on the same day Henry Paget went down in history as the man who responded to having his leg amputated with a blunt knife with nothing but mild discomfort, his commanding officer similarly reacted to the frankly astonishing occurrence of a man standing 3 feet away having his leg blown off like he'd just noticed someone in the room had farted. Like Paget, the Duke of Wellington was well known for his stony demeanor and his diamond-like testicle fortitude, earning him the nickname the Iron Duke. Wellington was similarly respected by his men for his commitment to a Spartan military lifestyle, with the Duke insisting on dining on the same rations as his men and opting to sleep on a standard-issue military cot, even though his rank and social status would have allowed him to eat fresh swan necks every day if he really wanted to. According to history books, the Iron Duke is said to only have ever dropped his stony facade once upon hearing that Napoleon had abdicated. Upon hearing this news, the Duke is said to have giddily clicked his fingers, spun around on the spot, and danced an excited flamenco before instantly resuming a dignified, statue-like pose as if nothing had happened.
So this is the guy that was sitting next to the last guy when his leg got blown off. And he said, so you have. Your leg did get blown off, sir. He snapped his fingers and danced an excited flamenco.
Number 4. The quote. We are still open for business. More than usual. The context. Sign placed in British stores that had been hit by bombs during the Blitz. The story.
More than
During
usual.
World War II, one of the things Hitler had a real hard-on for was crushing the morale of the British, something he hoped to accomplish by tasking the Luftwaffe
look at that photo. There's a
tower.
tower.
Crap out of major British population centers for 2 years straight, a time in history known as the Blitz. Although the Nazis succeeded in leveling a significant percentage of Britain, the British populace went about as if everything was totally fine. Workers finding their offices had been destroyed would pull their desks out of the rubble and do paperwork in the middle of the street. Housewives would gossip about raids like the weather, and stores continued to sell produce even if they didn't have roofs. In keeping with the self-deprecating nature of British humour, such stores would advertise the fact that they were still open by telling the public that they were simply more open than usual, which is apparently the British way of saying missing half a roof.
That's good. Understatement. That's what I'm realizing. That's a good... I never thought of that word regarding the British sense of humor, but it's so appropriate. So many understatements. It's kind of like sarcasm, but a bit different, isn't it?
Number 3, the quote. I told you I was ill. The context. The proposed epitaph for Spike Milligan's tombstone.
I have seen this.
Spike Milligan was a comedian known throughout Britain for his surreal and often
he was a comedian.
humor.
I didn't know that.
Considered to have been one of the key influences behind Monty Python and held in high regard by the entire British comedy scene, Milligan is often referred to as the comedian's comedian. Even in his twilight years, when he was plagued by a host of health problems, Milligan continued to crack jokes at his own expense, the most famous of which was an offhand remark he made about his desire to have his tombstone bear the epitaph, I told you I was ill. When he passed away in 2002, his family, in accordance with his wishes, actually tried to buy a tombstone with that joke on it, but the people in charge of the graveyard didn't feel it was appropriate and told the family to change it. After some consideration, Milligan's family simply decided to translate the phrase into Irish and put that on the tombstone instead. And speaking of funerals...
Yeah, I've heard of this one. I didn't know the guy was a comedian, though. I thought he was just a really funny British dude. Well, he was. He's both. Spike Milligan. What a great attitude. Oh, he died in 2002. Oh, The Goon Show. I've heard of that. The Goons. Yeah. Wasn't that with Peter Sellers? Yes, it was. He was Peter Sellers' buddy. What illness did he have? He had bipolar disorder, y'all. That is no joke for him and the people around him. He said, I've got so low that I have asked to be hospitalized and for deep narcosis. I cannot stand being awake. The pain is too much. Something has happened to me. This vital spark has stopped burning. I go to a dinner table now and I don't say a word, just sit there like a dodo. Normally I am in the center of attention, keep the conversation going. So that is depressing in itself. It's like another person taking over. Very strange. The most important thing I say is, good evening, and then I go quiet. He told him he was ill? Wow. Milligan died from kidney failure. That's probably not fun. Salute to you, Mr. Milligan. Sir Milligan? Mr. Milligan. Spike.
Number 2, the quote. Always look on the bright side of life.
Yeah.
The context. The most popular song played at British funerals. The story.
Oh, really?
Despite having the word fun right there in it, funerals are often anything but. What with all the crying people and fistfights that break out. British people seem to be a curious exception to this rule, with it being noted that the Monty Python song, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, is the most popular song requested at funerals. What makes this particular song choice so deliciously hilarious is that it took the top spot away from actual religious hymns, which had prior to 2014 been the most popular final song requested by the deceased. So, just to clarify, in Britain, the most popular song played at funerals is one that was intentionally written as an ironic piss take for a film, The Life of Brian, poking fun at the idea of religion, about remaining calm and collected in the face of adversity, and it took the top spot away from a genuine, sentimental religious hymn.
That's
wonderful. If you needed any more proof that the British don't even pretend to give a crap, the song is also popular at football games when one team is losing, and was once sung by an entire ship as it was sinking.
It was sung by an entire ship while it was sinking. Eric Idle wrote that song. There's a great story about it. I think he wrote it really quick. That's so great. I love that. That's such a British thing. The song touches on stoicism and the stiff upper lip spirit in the face of adversity, so often associated with British people. Yes. It's such a good... Oh, I love this. I love this so much. Congrats, Eric Idle. Sir Idle, should be. Oh, he rewrites the lyrics for different occasions. Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Eric Idle. I know you're watching this. I love you.
Number 1, the quote. We have enough time to finish the game and win. The context. Sir Francis Drake, upon being interrupted during a game of bowls about an approaching Spanish fleet of ships. The story. Francis Drake is known in Britain for many things, including beasting on the Spanish so hard they called him the Dragon, circumnavigating the globe, and dying of dysentery. In regards to the former, Drake was a key figure in defeating the Spanish Armada, a massive fleet of ships that attempted to invade England in 1588. According to legend, Drake was so unafraid of the Spanish and so supremely confident in his own skills that upon learning that a fleet of ships large enough to level half of the English coastline had just crested the horizon, he didn't act on the news until he'd finished a game of bowls. Exactly what Drake said isn't clear, but multiple sources report that he was happy to learn that the Spanish were still a few miles away because it meant he could finish his game, reportedly quipping that he'd smash the Spanish fleet after, and only after, he'd finished the game. True to his word, Drake trounced the Spanish Armada in battle, personally leading a charge that destroyed a quarter of the Armada and captured one of their most powerful ships. Proof that the English do get emotional, but only about things that actually matter, like a game involving rolling small balls on some grass. So I really hope you liked that video. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for brand new videos just like this.
What is bowls exactly? It's like bocce ball. Bowls, also known as lawn bowls or lawn bowling, is a sport. Players try to roll their ball, called a bowl. Why? Closest to a smaller ball, known as a jack, or sometimes a kitty. The balls are heavier on one side so that they turn when being rolled. Sir Francis Drake. He died of dysentery, y'all. That means he pooped to death. See? It happens all the time. It's probably how 80% of us are gonna go. Before dying, he asked to be dressed in his full armor. He was buried at sea in a sealed lead-lined coffin. Oh, he was in South America. He was in Panama, fighting the Spanish again, and that's when he got dysentery. Well, another person pooped to death, y'all. Those understated quotes, y'all. But I'm just now connecting this in my mind, how those understated comments are sarcastic, or they're interpreted as sarcasm. And that's why British people say Americans don't understand British sarcasm. We do, we just don't laugh at it as much, I think. But now I see the understatement part of it. It is like another level of sarcasm. a subtlety that if you don't know, it'll go right over your head. So now I'm just now connecting how Americans would not understand British sarcasm. Thank you, Simon Whistler, and Carl Smallwood, and Shell Harris for bringing that to my attention. Well, this is a really good video. This was enlightening and funny. And thank you all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.